the idea came up actually in 2017. Even before we had a date for the campaign, and even before he was announced as potential candidate. So I remember that when I told him about the project that I had, I asked him and said, well, sir, I want to follow you during the campaign. So he laughed at me and he said, well, we don't even know when campaign is going to be, and we don't even know whether I'm going to be a candidate. And I told him, well, I think you will be. So he said, well, you know, I'm just here to contribute. So I told him, you're not a contributor, you're a leader. So there is no chance you will just stay behind. So he just laughed. And a few weeks later, I received a very good fellowship from Harvard University that allowed me to start the project and then later to go back to Malaysia. So I arrived in Malaysia in December 2017. So right on time for the first annual assembly of Mahathir new party called Bersatu. And then in January, the entire opposition coalition gathered for its own annual assembly as well. And then Mahathir was nominated as potential prime minister candidate. So really from that time on, I started to follow him, but following someone like Mahathir is actually extremely difficult. So what was agreed on never happened. I was supposed to be with him most of the time, but this had to be renegotiated permanently with his staff, with the inner circle, because there is a culture of secret very strong. This is coming from UMNO as well, his former party, and any party that has been ruling or even say overruling a country for so long as this culture of secrecy and in a way of authoritarianism as well. So I would face a lot of block all the time, but with a little bit of diplomacy, a lot of patience and psychology, eventually I managed to make my way, and because people start to see me around so much that I really start to belong to the landscape, I would say. Even if I kind of stand out, I can't help it, I don't look Malaysian, but I was more and more accepted as time went. Working my way through the inner circle of a man with so much power was very interesting in itself. That was an experience as an ethnographer, as a female scientist, as a female from France. All of those experiences raised a lot of questions regarding methodology, epistemology, and that was and human experience as well. And that was absolutely fantastic. The other thing that was, I think, brought me a lot of new ideas and that constitute a great experience is to see how a man can really reinvent himself. And it's what I just mentioned earlier, is how do you remake the story? How do you change your legacy when you're being seen as such a strong leader with all of the baggage that it has as well, and you suddenly want to sell a new agenda, selling as in, you know, politically marketing, right? So how do you reinvent yourself to the point that it's going to be credible or seen as legitimate enough by the people for them to vote you back to power? And I learned that basically nothing is impossible, that's for sure, because again, not many would have bet on what looked like a leap of faith of an old man, but he made it. And I learned that he was definitely an excellent tactician. Mahathir is not an intellectual. He is a doctor by training, a physician, and so he sees symptoms and he finds cures. He is very pragmatic, so it is very interesting the ways that he's solving problems.